What actually makes a game meaningful? For the past months, I've made horror games, small little mini games, with less focus on narrative. But going into game dev, I'd always wanted to create something that can strike through your heart and do some real emotional damage. So in the next 2 weeks, I'm going to be attempting this. Come with me and make a short little video game inspired by the stories of Sputnik 2 with Laika and all the other dogs into space. I laid down the bare bones of my movement, which I initially envisioned to be in a big space station where you play as a dog and you waddle around in zero gravity. You do stuff like maybe align your solar panels to the sun, whatever. But so this project had a lack of direction to begin with since I was trying to rush it. So you'll imagine my surprise seeing the actual size of the Sputnik 2, which was but a tiny thing compared to some rocket ships that I've seen before. So I was like, oh man, I'm gonna really have to rethink the vibe and some mechanics because there is no way you can waddle around in that tiny thing. Look at that. So yes, I ended up keeping the actual size sort of 1-to-1 as much as I could, which brought me to my next issue. Now that you can barely move, the whimsy of waddling around in a space station as a doggy has kind of gone completely out of the window.
You know what? You just left.
And if you stripped it to its bare mechanics, it's kinda empty right now. Since I was having a mental block, I decided to skip designing the interior first and start texturing the metals of the ship. I found this free texture online, so that was pretty smooth. But I ran into an issue with coloring, since there were darker metal shades I wanted to replicate on some parts. I tried a few things. You can try inverting the color maybe. Whoa. Krockiedev? Oh no. But when that didn't work, I opened up Photoshop. I played around with it a bit and found out I could actually change how much detail there was using levels. And then by enabling colorize, I could actually change the color of the image and, use the hue and saturation sliders, make them actually work. Because, without it just felt like they had no effect. Neat. Since I'd yet to design the interior, I did some research. I found out in the chamber where Laika was in, there were a few things I could actually utilize in a game design aspect, such as oxygen producing apparatuses, and there was a lot of emphasis on, her having enough space to sleep, sit, and whatever. So, sleep mechanic maybe, as well as food, like jelly sort of thingy that comes out in an interval. So I also thought it'd be cute as well to be able to rotate the ship around by some buttons that you press, which could also set up the aligning with the sun mechanic nicely later on. What is a photoelectric device and multiplier? Photoelectric device and multiplier, commonly known as a photo multiplier. Multiplier. Hello everybody, my name is Multiplier. And to reiterate, this is inspired by the events, not a one-to-one recollection. So obviously we can be a bit creative and unrealistic, so I added a speaker where you can talk to the scientist, which nicely sets up any onboarding we might need to teach the player the mechanics, as well as some more creative ones down the line, like being able to bark whenever you see an asteroid, barking when you see certain planets or stars in sight of your window, and then maybe the scientist could say something cool about it, the sun is hot as fuck. So I guess in a way it'll be informative like that, but again, not much is final about the mechanics, which is contrary to the narrative, which I've got a pretty solid idea for right now, but I'll go into that in the future devlog. Wait, where's the color? So now that I'd done the interior, all that was left to do was finalize the textures. For the buttons, I wanted a retro space vibe, especially with the colors, so all I did was change the levels on whatever this texture was and then set its hue to any color I wanted. I also drew an arrow, but instead of changing the direction of the arrows to match left, right, or down, I just simply changed the colors and exported them with different colors. This is because I could just rotate the arrows using the UV editor in Blender. Neat! My interior draft is pretty much finished, so Now it's time to do some more mechanics.
Yo, bro, I
Right?
know you're not doing all that, man. You are not doing all that.
Animation. I'm still yet to implement the actual mechanics, but I promise that'll be the topic for the next devlog. I just really needed to make the spaceship because I can and because it's fucking cooler than moving a bunch of placeholders around. Last thing I did was test out the button animations, and to do that, I used raycasts and set the buttons as static bodies. And if event that key index. Wait, how do I do this again?
What are you doing?
So yeah, in my debug headspace, I accidentally did a weird implementation where it detects your mouse cursor instead of just implementing the actual raycast logic of interacting with things in the center of your screen in first person like every other first person game out there.
Alright?
So, I'll work on that first thing for the next devlog, but it worked. So that was it for my first day. I'll see y'all in the next one to discuss the mechanics and narrative. Right.